Alrighty. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is, I'll name this segment later, GTG Spits That Grease, so on and so forth. You guys know how this all works. Just in case the title hasn't already given me away yet. Boy, oh boy. April, August 14th will be the 20th anniversary of Darkside Phil's 4th place finish at EVO 2005. Boy, does time come at you fast. So, what do you guys think about it? Now, here's the thing. I had already heard about this, and I already had a video kind of planned for this already. Still kind of planning it, and I want to try to go over his whole EVO situation. I may not have it ready by the 14th, depending on how long it goes, or we break it up in parts. We'll see how they go. But, I was just finished watching the daily SNORTBUCKS video. Big ups to SNORTBUCKS, much love. And then I saw the Snort Hogan video they just put out, right? And, you know, Snort Hogan has that hour-long joint. And DSP's in this, celebrating the 1-year anniversary of him, of DSP and Kino Casino dunking on Review Tech USA. Is that a thing? Whatever, we'll talk about that later. But that was like, hey, good reminder to go ahead and talk about DSP's 20 years of fucking failure. 20 years of always going to be known as 4th place, never was good enough to be first, never was smart enough, never was talented enough, none of those things, despite trying to build a career off of his dead friend, T Carter, RIP to him. The best you could do for T and T's memory was 4th? 4th? Wow. And then if you really think about it, because DSP said this recently, I think he said it during one of the Mario Kart streams, before he quit that, he wage quitted, I should say. Actually, he waged and rage quit Mario Kart World, if you think about it, but semantics. Basically, DSP said, oh, I hit, what? I think he said he got 2nd, or he got 3rd. And he says, well, if you're not first, then you're just the first loser up there. And that immediately, like, resonated with me in the fact that, wait a second, your 4th place finish still is at 2. If I can find that clip, it'll be somewhere around here.
Position where I couldn't power slide at all, and then I didn't get an item even though I drove over. So I'm done. They definitely won. I'm gonna get like 2nd or 3rd. Yep, I got 2nd. Man, that sucked. I was so close. 2nd place is great, but it's just the first loser. My internet's fine. Wow, that took forever. No, I got 2nd place so far, Itzy.
Here. Anyway, so I thought about that and I was like, oh, wow, I can't wait to go ahead and shoot you in the face with that in Minecraft. Later on with that, that's gonna be great. So there's the situation with the whole situation with Rich and Kino Casino, which is fucking weird and kind of gay, Phil. It's kind of gay. Kind of gay. You setting up an anniversary for dunking on Rich. I understand Rich has a tattoo. He ain't branded himself with you on him. So I guess you feel like you're a part of him or some shit. Whatever weird ass relationship you lolcows have.
All right, so here, I'll hit shirt off time. Oh. And there, right now it looks like I said, it looks like shit. I'll go to the bigger screen. The hell out of here. See all like the drippage right here? So there it is. Trying to obviously all that stuff is going to go away.
Breasts.
Ah, I didn't know tattoo flu was a thing. No, I don't have any kind of tattoo flu.
Breasts.
I guess it depends on how big it is, right? Thank you for gifting 5 memberships. Appreciate it.
Breasts.
Yeah, this shit took like 7 hours, man. He only charged me for 4. Like all like this all here.
Robust moves.
Bloody GB donated 13 Canadian dollars and 99 cents
Hold
through
on.
Super Chat. Tattoo flu is sometimes you feel sick like you have a small cold the day after because your immune system is working overtime to heal it. The bigger the tattoo, the more chance it happens.
No, I'm not getting any of that, dude. Which is good. Not sure what's going on down here. It's sealed. It's not leaking anywhere, so that's all that matters. But there's like shading in here. Get the fuck out of here. I'll have to talk louder. Like where Simon Belmont is, there's shading. Like you'll be able to see the
Robust moves.
over here too.
Deported Sicilian Gamer donated $5 through Super Chat. Rich, put on a blonde wig and tell everyone you're Alana Pierce.
But that's kind of gay. That's kind of gay. You're trying to celebrate an anniversary and you're cheering. You're literally, you know, tipping your whatever fucking fruity fucking seltzer bullshit you were up on the Kino Casino and shit to celebrate your celebration of Rich. I don't understand that shit. I don't need to. And if it was funny, then it'd have been something, but it wasn't.
A delicious nectar hard juice passion fruit orange, which I'm gonna start drinking right now. Yes, it is alcoholic, but on top of all of that, out of nowhere, we just determined something live on stream that we didn't realize at first. Okay, tonight is the 1 year to the day anniversary when I did a co-op react event to the Review Tech documentary, Review Tech USA documentary by June the King. So first of all, to that, cheers everyone. So, momentous, because really, I would argue that co-op event, even though, yes, I had done an appearance on that Kino Casino show before that, I would argue that it was that event, that cooperative react, that cemented in people's interest in me to show them that I'm not just some kind of a meme or a schlub, that I actually was entertaining and I could add something to things outside of me just, you know, sitting around and just playing video games. And since then, things have been really good for me. Now, I've been saying this for the last several months, but I want to bring it up again. That stream, that particular stream on August 11th, 2024, was one of my most profitable streams I've ever had, but it was because there was co-op, right? It was me working with the guys from Kino Casino to do this epic event. I would like to do a stream where I can hit those heights and exceed them myself. That day alone, between tips, super chats, and memberships, I made around $3,000. I'm not kidding. I think I made like $1,000 in tips, and the super chats and memberships were over, like, in reality, they were over $2,000, but YouTube takes a huge cut of profits. So I didn't make that much like it looked like I did. But man, it was a crazy day. All right. So now what I would like to do is find a way somehow, someday, with my own content to hit those levels. I don't have to do a co-op in order to have basically that level of success. All right. But I'm curious how long it'll take and what it will be. What content would it be that would get me to that level? Because I don't know. We've been talking about that for a while, right? We have been. Like, what would it be? I don't know. Yeah, I would like to think it wouldn't have to be another collab, but maybe it would have to. I don't know. Obviously, a lot has changed since then, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, a ton has changed.
Anywho, I might try to put that in here too, now that I think about it. Oh, but here you go. But off of that, let's jump back to what this video is really about. Evo 2005. Oh boy. The amount of preparation that DSP put into getting that 4th place finish is fantastic. I'm going to give you the TLDR on this shit. I'm going to try to make it fast. I'm not one to do that, you know what I'm saying? Or keep things short, you know what I'm saying? But we're going to see what we can do here. So DSP finds out that the Evo staff and the FGC at that time, really Evo staff, wanted to convert from arcade cabinets, which DSP didn't have any notable rankings at Evo 4 anyway, wink wink nudge nudge. They wanted to transition from the arcade cabinets to actual consoles. Now, there's a variety of reasons for that. Consoles were becoming more commonplace. Maybe it was harder to get an arcade machine, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because there was a lot of guys who actually had their own in-home arcade machines, kind of like what Max has now, like a lot of these guys do, who own homes. They had those cabinets, and if Evo was willing to help them with the finances, they could get it, you know, moved around. Or at that time, arcades were still a thing. Finding a local arcade for it. You can't tell me that it wasn't button parts and pieces, because everybody and their mama had some pieces on that shit. Hell, when DSP was in Connecticut, when they were doing that East Coast Customs, not East Coast Customs, I'm thinking of the motorcycle shop.
Here are the final lineup of the 4 custom joysticks which we have created from our first batch, round 1 of East Coast Customs. On the far left, you have for the Xbox 360, it is a Chun-Li and Mai Shiranui
Classy makeout.
classy joystick. That's what we'll call it. We should call it on eBay the classy joystick, with a white ball top, a Famitsu stick, and 6 Sanwa buttons, 3 red, 3 blue. Up next, we have the Mega Man stick for Xbox 360. This one has a Sanwa joystick with a clear bubble style ball top, they call that, with blue buttons.
Nice one.
Up next, we have a freshly made Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo joystick. This one is for the PlayStation 3. This has a Famitsu stick with a yellow ball top and yellow buttons and a custom Don't Blow This logo in the bottom right hand corner. Pretty cool. And then last but not least, we have the Marvel vs. Capcom 1 Capcom side cast joystick. This is for the PlayStation 3. This has a Sanwa style joystick. It's a little hard to tell in this lighting, but that is a dark blue / purplish joystick ball and buttons. So
With that stone cat.
and it's got a stoned cat in the bottom right-hand corner. What the fuck kind of fish that thing's been eating? I don't want to know. Look at its eyeballs.
It's so lit up.
It is so lit. It's crazy. So that is a pretty cool stick, too. So this is the lineup. These are the first 4 sticks we'll be putting up. I guess we'll call them the Classy stick, the Mega Man stick, the Super Turbo stick. Actually, we'll probably just call this the Don't Blow This stick.
The consenting adult stick.
And the Marvel, the Capcom casts. I probably call this the Capcom cast stick or something like that. So these will be going up on eBay sometime next week. I guess
I'm thinking Wednesday.
Wednesday?
The day before Thanksgiving.
And do a Wednesday to Wednesday auction?
Wednesday to Wednesday.
So that way you have the whole Black Friday weekend to bid on these, check it out, take a look. I mean, we tested all 4 of them. They all work beautifully. So that's what we'll be doing. I'll basically put up another video with the information once the auctions are available.
Right.
But this is just a preview right now. A lot of people wanted to see a preview of this coming up this weekend, so here they are. This is round 1. I actually ordered some more joysticks, which we may or may not be modding for ourselves.
For us.
It might be for us, exactly. Or I actually have a tournament edition stick I've ordered a Plexi top for. That might be my stick. I haven't decided yet, but
These are really well done, and
these are really well done.
In all honesty, some of the best art I've seen on custom art I've seen on sticks.
Yeah.
High quality.
All the time we go to tournaments and we see shit, and we're like, gee, why'd you put shit on your stick? And people are like, well, because all I know is shit. And I said, well, then we're going to have to outdo the shit.
Exactly.
We'll take a shit on that shit with our shit.
Yeah.
And it comes out beautiful somehow. All right, so anyway.
Whatever the name is of that custom arcade stick business that DSP and John said they were going to have. Someone will correct me down in the comments. He had a bunch of spare parts and switches and stuff like that as they needed to. DSP blew a bunch of money doing that stuff. I can't remember why that arcade stick thing didn't work now. That little business. I think they were using copyrighted artwork, if I remember correctly. Huh, that might be an interesting side quest to go on one day. Telling that story. Actually, I'll leave that for Proper. But I'll definitely fucking chime in on it. But that might be fun. Big ups to Proper. Agent Proper. So it wasn't like parts were hard to come by. I can't remember why what the full reason is. If I go and look into the archives, I can find it. In any case, so they decide to transition over to to the console version. And the console version they decided to go with was like this really shitty port, right? And obviously Mike Watson has laid down the groundwork. I'll see if I can put that somewhere in here eventually, where he calls it the Neo Geo version of Street Fighter, right? Funny enough, I think Tevin, Almighty Tevin, praise be, actually looked this up one time and found that there was a PS1 version of Street Fighter, of Super Turbo. I'm pretty sure it was Tevin who did that. Praise be, and big ups. But that's a thing. But anyway,
John, in 2005, I think it was, the three of you were absent from ST Top 8. What happened that year? You can defer that question if you'd like.
I think it was a combination of, I think it was the first console ST that we played on for a while, and we just kind of took it lightly, thinking that it's pretty much the same as arcade. So I really didn't get that version, got out of the way to get it and practice on it. And when we actually got there, it wasn't that different, but the minor differences were enough to throw us off. And yeah, I lost really fast, and then so did everybody.
It was probably on
else.
Turbo 3 or something, you know?
So yeah, it was just a little bit different than what we're used to. So, but after that, I kind of learned my lesson to always get the version that they're going to play on, because you can't just assume that everything's going to be exactly as you remember. So.
And how about you, Mike? What happened that year for you?
Is that the year PlayStation 1 was involved? Can we be real specific, or do you not know?
There was a problem. I think it was the PlayStation version.
Because when you play Bison and you hit a fierce flame and it only goes like 20% of the screen, you got a problem with the game. And you got some,
that's the answer I was looking for.
You got some idiot named DSP who's a total piece of shit, by the way. I like to get that on YouTube. But this guy thought he was hot shit because he beat me and Choi in a game that was like, it's like fucking Neo Geo conversion of Street Fighter or some crap, dude. and he was so proud that he put under as a signature, he's the #1 US ranked Super Turbo player that year. But I mean, look at him now. I mean, he's just... No, he's got 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. 20,000 idiots are subscribed to him. That's great. Congratulations. Congratulations with your YouTube channel, and hope you enjoy your life, bro. I mean, it's a great victory. PlayStation 1 Super Turbo champion. You take that to your grave, bro. Good luck.
Alex, what is the Street Fighter community, especially the EVO tournament, going to look like 3 years from now, do you think?
DSP finds out it's going to go to console. He hears all the uproar and everything, and he's right there with it because DSP is all about his hive mind groupthink. He wants to belong. He wants to feel a part of the collective. At the same time, DSP goes out there, he goes out and buys the game, as I'm sure most people did, and he starts grinding it. Because now he's hearing all these big names are like, yo, this is a joke, this is a gimmick, I'm not going to participate in Super Turbo, I'll play something else that year. Now he's seeing that the player pool is starting to dwindle a bit. Mainly, the competition that he more than likely wouldn't be able to beat is starting to dwindle. So he's thinking, all right, EVO 2005 is looking like a free lunch. It looks like we're going to be able to roll right in, hit them with that gouty sludge. You know, he's doing his broke version of Birdman, and be like, yo, we're going to get this. I'm going to get this all day. So he starts grinding that shit out. If I remember correctly, he flew out to the EVO event. So he grinded this inferior copy of Street Fighter, of Super Turbo. He grinds the fuck out of this. Then he goes out to EVO. I'm pretty confident that he went out there like a week early. Don't hold me to this. But he goes out to EVO a week early. I guess he's attempting, in air quotes, trying to help set up in this, that, and third. And there was another guy there named Cigar Bob who had built his own portable type of machine or whatever that runs different games. And I think Super Turbo was on there. So he's playing that. He's basically grinding it out and trying to make sure he can get the odds and ends, find out really who the cheapest characters were, which was what, Vega, Bison. There's a couple other characters in there that are silly ass broken, like legitimately broken as shit. So he's grinding all this shit out. But let me backtrack a little bit before he actually flies out the EVO. He's monitoring what's going on SRK, Capcom United, and event hubs. He's hearing all these people saying this is bullshit. I'll still go to the tournament. I'll still go to EVO. But I'm not playing because fuck this game, fuck all the problems with it, and so on and so forth. So he's starting to think, okay, like I said, these people are starting to drop out. These people say they're not going to play. I already have a couple of characters that I know that are really cheap that I can take advantage of. This is how I'm going to get in there. This is how I'm going to get it in, and I'm going to make my mark. Because everybody's still shitting on DSP. DSP is still considered a joke and a meme and all these things. Despite what he tells you, he was still not respected. That's why he needed this EVO win. That's why he needed it as bad as he needed it. Anyway, So he grinds it out while still fanning the flames of, oh yeah, it's an inferior copy, this is terrible. Look at what the Cannon brothers are doing, trying to ruin, you know, fighting games, you know, his usual spiel and bullshit propaganda. Anywho, he ends up finally going to Evo. He goes out there, like I said, like a week early. If I remember correctly, his dumbass maxed out a shitload of credit cards and whatnot, because stupid is as stupid does, and to go out there. And all he's doing is spending his time grinding the shit out. He goes through, he goes up against some notable names, loses some, he wins some. He thinks that, you know what I'm saying, I've got everything locked down, until the Japanese pop up. Now, DSP, being DSP, he sits there and thinks, oh, well, I don't even know if this copy is even available in Japan or whatever, which it had to have been if it was on Neo Geo. But he finds out, or the word's going around, that, oh, well, the Japanese players who showed up that year, they haven't even played this version of the game. So they're pretty much going into this shit butt ass naked. They have no clue what's gonna go on. DSP is thinking, oh, that's my advantage. I got this. It's in the bag. And then he runs into Takedo and the rest of those guys, and they turn his ass into basically a pork belly buffet. They basically work his ass over until he's got nothing left. And then he takes fourth. He takes fourth. He got cleaned up by players who used real fundamentals in a version of the game that they've never played and beat his ass. So what does DSP do? He's the #1 North American player that year when he come home, because he got a code. You know what I'm saying? And whatnot, which is weird, which is not only weird to say that you're the #1 ranked North American player that year, which is, like I said, that's kind of weird. And saying that he only got beaten by 3 Japanese players, which anybody could perceive that to be, you know what I'm saying, whatever you want to perceive that as. It certainly doesn't sound very good. It sounds like a backhanded smack that the foreigners were coming in and taking his job or his opportunity or whatever. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that's what he said. One could go to lengths to think that's what he was trying to apply, but whatever. So then he copes on that. He copes on that shit for fucking years. Former pro fighting game player, 4th place at Evo, #1 ranked North American player. You guys know the spiel if you guys have been around. And that's essentially what he used as his launch point for YouTube. He built himself up off of that. Kind of like how Mudahar has built himself up off being an engineer. YouTube isn't his job, yada, 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 yada. This is DSP's rendition of that. That's his version of that. Now, over the years, people mocked it because obviously the version was shit. No one really took it seriously. Actually, let me finish the story. So after his 4th place finish, he's told, hey, we're actually having a little side tournament upstairs on, I think it's Cigar Bob, on Cigar Bob's cabinet. Why don't you come up and see what's popping? Because Alex Valle, and I should probably say this, Alex Valle had boycotted the tournament, and he decided not to show up. He ends up showing up after the fact. He had to work or whatever. He had responsibilities. He ends up showing up later on for this hotel invitational, basically. I guess everybody who was in top 8 was there. I guess. I don't know if all of the Japanese players were, but whatever. And they basically tell Phil, hey, you need to show up for this. This is important. Phil's like, oh, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I was in the tournament the whole time, and you guys didn't do shit. You guys dropped out. I was the one that basically held America or lifted or hoisted America on my back and carried us and whatnot. You ain't shit. This, that, and the third. I guess the Canadians didn't mean nothing. I guess Mexican players didn't mean anything. I guess it was just little old Phil out of Connecticut. They had to go ahead and hoist the white flag. Hoist the American flag and whatnot and carry it on his back. Semantics. Anywho, they asked him to come up to this tournament, or they demanded it, whatever. He a bitch, so he went. He got beat up, went back to his hotel and cried about it, went to YouTube later on and gave his rendition of the story on how he got picked over after his pork butt was already cooked by others.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Welcome to segment 2 of Hate Live, which is the Back in the Day segment. And tonight we've got a very, very special episode of Back in the Day, because for the very first time I'm opening up and being honest about Evolution 2005. This is an event that for many people they thought was highly controversial. I'll explain why. And it's a very unique situation, a unique time in my life for what was going on. The years of 2005 through 2007 were the years where I was incredibly into and dedicated to Street Fighter.
I was playing it all the effing time. My free time was all Street Fighter. My travel was all Street Fighter. All my money for my, went into this hobby that was Street Fighter. And in the year 2005, to give you guys some perspective, I have been traveling around and playing in certain tournaments regionally around the East Coast. And in particular, I have been trying to play Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. That's the game that started it all and really made Street Fighter a competitive force on the map. Up to Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, there were different versions of Street Fighter 2 that had been released, but never had anyone really said, wow, this game feels balanced. This game really feels like this is a tournament-level game. And finally, that game it introduced so many things like supers. Supers. For the very first time, you could have a super move that you get by fighting and getting hit and also doing combos and stuff. You tech hit throws where, when you get thrown, you can reduce the damage or escape the throw. All those were concepts, all introduced by that game. And so that game kind of became the quintessential top of the heap when it came to competitive fighting games. Now, this is a funny story. I didn't play that game when it was new. When that game was new, my local arcade didn't get it. I was busy playing other games that had come out in the meantime, like Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct and stuff like that. And it wasn't until much later that my arcade got things like Street Fighter Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3, and then I got back into Street Fighter 3, and of course the Versus series, Marvel vs. Capcom, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, etc., etc. So, excuse me. So, I didn't play any console games at all during this era. I missed out on the entire, PS2 era of gaming because I was so busy playing Street Fighter. Now, in particular, I liked Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and I liked Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I was not as good at Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as I was at Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but I actually played it more. So at the time, I had been traveling to places like Texas and Philadelphia and stuff like that. I would go all around the country traveling and participating in these tournaments. And incidentally, it was around this time period when I met John Rambo for the first time, and we became friends and later on travel companions going to all those tournaments. But that's not the point of this story. The point of this story is, in the year of 2005, it was a unique and really tumultuous year for me because I had moved out of my parents' house, got a 3-bedroom apartment that I was sharing with 2 roommates in more northern Connecticut. It's actually still southern Connecticut, but it's the northern part of southern Connecticut because I wanted to move next to my job. At the time, I was working for a place called Wells Fargo Financial. It was a place that gave out mortgages, credit cards, personal loans. But the catch here, which they didn't disclose to me when I was getting hired, is that it was basically mostly to people with bad credit, and we gave incredibly high interest rates, but the catch was we would give it to people with incredibly bad credit, and what we would do is, let's say, for example, these people really are in dire straits. They can't pay their bills anymore. They've got $20,000 in credit card debt. They have no money to pay, and so all their bills are past due. We would give them loans for up to almost 100% of the value of their house to pay off their credit cards. And of course, we'd charge them an exorbitant amount of money in interest to do it. But for them, they would see it as savings. Hey, at least we can now make the payment monthly and we're not going delinquent and it's not killing our credit. The problem was 2 things. Number one, a lot of these people, they already racked up $20,000 in credit card debt and then they put that on a mortgage. Guess what? I'm going to go do it again because now all my credit cards are free and clear. So they racked themselves right back to the situation that they were in, only this time they had no equity in their home to solve the problem. Number 2, the housing market crashed, and so even though we may have given them 100% of the value of their home on the loan, guess what? Now their home value is only this. They have a loan for twice the amount of money as what their house is worth. So all this was happening while I worked there. And quite honestly, I had a manager who didn't like me at all. We weren't compatible. He lived one kind of a lifestyle, I lived a different one. Not compatible, and for whatever reason, he just didn't like me, and he decided that he was going to give me the worst possible leads in the office, and I struggled to even close loans, because he would give me people with such low credit. I would work to try to get them a loan for 2 months, and then they would get denied in the end, because their credit's so low. And I'd be like, what do you want me to do? You give me the worst possible leads in the fucking office. You do it every month. To the point where I called in the district manager, the district supervisor, to tell her. But guess what? I found out she trained the guy, so she protected him. So anyway, the bottom line, the reason I'm telling you this, I was quitting. I had to get out of there. It was either going to be fired or I had to quit, okay? So I quit my job. But the thing was, that whole year, I had traveled the country to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and I knew that I was moving out of my apartment. I had an apartment, like I said, this 3-bedroom apartment. I knew eventually I'd be moving out, but it was still like 6 months on the lease, and I didn't know where I was going to get the money from to pay the bills. I didn't know anything at that point. I did have a job interview lined up for Best Buy in a few weeks, but basically it was like a couple of weeks before EVO, and I said, I want to go so bad because I've been practicing this, everything I've been doing, waiting for, but it was a huge risk because I didn't have the money to go. So I did one of the dumbest things I've ever done in my life, and please, I beg of you, unless you're on your last legs financially, do not ever do what I'm going to tell you I did to pay for my EVO trip. I took cash advances on all of my credit cards. So we're talking thousands of dollars in cash advances. I ended up paying off the interest alone for that for about 5 years. I'm not kidding. The reason that I had such credit card debt, and I told you just recently that I paid off all my credit card debt a year or two ago, is because that dumb decision to take out like $3,000 with cash advances on my credit cards fucked me up financially for years. So don't fucking do it unless you're destitute. Okay? Now, and by the way, I see a bunch of trolls again, so I just banned another one. Okay. So, on a whim, no job, unemployed, recently, left my job, on bad terms, by the way, because I hated the fucking manager, and I had it out with him and told him he was a fucking asshole, and that he doesn't know how to run a branch, and the only reason he had his job is because basically his district manager is a fucking cocksucker and protected his ass, because I would have had him fucking fired for the shit. I actually found out he was illegally granting loans to certain people, which I'm not even going to get into. I will not get into it here. Okay. So, on a whim, I go out to EVO. Now, the thing is, I didn't go with anyone. I went by myself on my own ticket. I remember the flight sucked. It was a flight. This is the dumbest flight I've ever heard of. Where do you hear this? So, my flight left from Connecticut, flew from Connecticut to New York, and then from New York to the West Coast. So, the flight from Connecticut to New York was the worst flight I've ever been on. It was a tiny fucking plane. Only me and one other woman were on it. I don't understand how that worked. It was the most crazy-ass turbulence I've ever been in my life. It literally felt like you were on a roller coaster, and a giant head roller coaster in his hands was going like this. That's what the flight fucking felt like, so that was awful. When I finally got out there, I ended up, taking a taxi or whatever to the venue. Now, at the time, EVO was being held in Vegas. It still is held in Vegas, but at that time, they were trying to every year have a different place on the Strip. I don't particularly remember what casino they were at that year, but they were at a casino. I do remember that much. And I didn't have any roommates or anything like that. I did have enough money, luckily, let me think about that now. Did I have my own room? I can't even remember. I don't think I had my own room. I think because I had so little money, I ended up rooming with a bunch of people from Maryland who I knew because they're cool. They're real cool people. They'd come up to the northern area of the East Coast to play in Street Fighter tournaments before. I think I talked to them online and arranged to stick my leg in and get a spot in their room. Isaac Graham was actually one of the people who I hung out with during that EVO. And so they were real cool. I kind of hung out with those group of players during that EVO. And I remember being pretty much alone. No one else from my area, the East Coast, no one from Connecticut had gone to EVO. And that could be a daunting thing. When you're going up in a tournament, it's a nationals tournament. And yeah, it's an open thing and anyone can enter. But back then, keep in mind, Street Fighter 4 wasn't out. It was a much smaller event. And it was a lot more daunting because almost everyone there is a killer player. They've been playing forever. There's no opportunity to play multiple levels of people who aren't very good before you get to someone who's good because the tournaments were much smaller. So, well, it looks like we got more lag on the stream, everyone. Isn't that great? Anyway, so I go out there by myself pretty much, kind of nervous because I've never been out there to the West Coast by myself before. But I said, I'm just going to do it. To hell with it, shoot the J. This may be, my final opportunity because I don't even have a job. I don't know if I'm going to find another job. Let me just do this, get it out of the way, and I'll get it out of my system, and maybe I'll never go to EVO again. Who knows? If I have no money, there's no way I can go to EVO ever again. And here's the thing about EVO 2005 that was so controversial. Anyone who played Super Turbo at the time will tell you this. This was a time period when EVO was adjusting to the times. At the time, arcades were going out of business. The pastime of going to your local arcade on a stand-up cabinet and playing with someone in person, those days were going away. What had happened is that recently, games such as Third Strike and Super Turbo had been released on the Xbox, and people were playing them on the Xbox online. And so they were playing that way. Now, it was incredibly laggy, and it was very hard to learn anything, but that was the best you got back then, okay? And what EVO decided to do is they wanted to, for the first time, they wanted to convert their tournament from an all-arcade cabinet tournament to all consoles. The problem with doing that was that there weren't widely accepted console versions of these arcade games that people felt were arcade perfect. So, for example, with the exception of Marvel vs. Capcom 2, every game had a difference from the arcade version. Capcom vs. SNK 2 ran much faster on consoles than it did on the arcade boards, so you had to actually be faster and have better hand-eye coordination to be better on it on consoles. Third Strike, or Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, had several differences from the arcade version that a lot of people eventually forgot about because everyone just got used to the console versions and played that. But Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo by far had a bad run when it came to console versions. In this particular case, they decided that for EVO 2K5, 2005, they were going to use the PlayStation 1 version from the Street Fighter collection of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And what a gaffe that was, because people were like, oh, we can't find that game. The game's like 3 years old. It's hard to get your hands on now. A lot of people, you know, didn't like that version of the game. In fact, I'll tell you that right now, that version of the game is far from arcade perfect. It's got tons of differences. Lots of timing issues, hitboxes that were changed, damage level output that was changed. There's a lot about that game that was changed on the console version, the PS1 version in particular. And so what ended up happening was, there was controversy because all the old school Super Turbo players who traditionally attended EVO, okay, and played on arcade cabinet, said, well, how are we going to do this? We've always played on arcade cabinet. That's the real definitive version, and you're telling us to play an inferior version that is not the same as the arcade. And so some old school players put up a big stink. One of them, I'll tell you right now, was Alex Valle. I don't want to play on console. This is bullshit. Of course, later on, everything became console. It didn't matter anymore what these guys said. They ended up playing on console regardless because it was what they did at EVO. But at the time, it was this big controversial thing. We don't like this, blah, blah, blah. Now, let me tell you guys something. I, in particular, got into Super Turbo after the days when it was a new game. I started playing it around the year 2000 in arcades. It was like, I would play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as my primary game, but whenever I wasn't playing that, I would head over to Super Turbo and play that for hours. And it was known as the thinking man's game because at its core, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo is not a complex game. There's only like there's only 16 characters in it. Well, I guess you could say there's more than that if you count Akuma. So, alright, there's a limited amount of character selection. A lot of the characters have similarities, right? Very basic system. There's no gimmicks in that game. In that game, the new gimmick was basically super moves, because that was the game that introduced them. And you could probably, in a couple days of playing it, learn a few characters and be able to play it at a decent competitive level, okay? The trick here is in the nuances. They called it the old man's fighter because the people who'd played that game for years and knew these little tricks, these little timing things that they could use to beat even the peer person who's been playing it for a year and they think that they're really good, that guy would all of a sudden pull something out from his old knowledge that you didn't know and boom, you lose. And that's kind of the game that it was known as. And I was actually a newcomer to the game, considered a newcomer to the game when I was playing it around this time period. People would say, oh, he may be good, but you know what? He wasn't from back in the day, so he's not an OG. That's what they call them, OG, because they think they're gangsters or something. It stands for original gamer, but they call them OGs like, oh, we're original gangsters. Yeah, okay, because you play Street Fighter in a fucking arcade, you're a gangster. Whatever you say, dude. But yeah, I was considered the new kid on the block, and so for me to get respect was like impossible. You're playing Super Turbo, you want respect. You're a kid, you're young, you know, people who are playing Super Turbo are all in their 30s, you're only in your 20s, who do you think you are to be playing this game, yada, yada, yada. So, I go out there, and
I'm going to very shortly reveal something that's going to piss off a lot of people, but I'm not going to reveal it yet. We're going to get to it. So I go out there, and I immediately notice there's an arcade cabinet for Super Turbo, but I'm like, but that's not arcade Super Turbo. What is it? Well, there's a guy, his name is Cigar Bob. I have no idea if he's still around, but at the time, he was an OG, that's what they called him, an OG, whatever, who back in the day was known for playing Super Turbo, but he actually owned arcade cabinets, he built his own cabinets, and he actually built this custom setup where you could have different joystick types and things installed in this cabinet, and it would hook up to a TV that two people could play on. So you could play PlayStation 1 Super Turbo with your style of controller or joystick, almost like you're at an arcade, okay? And that's what everyone was playing on during this entire tournament. Of course, they had other setups, and they were very, by the way, back then, unheard of to play on a pad. If you were trying to play Street Fighter on a pad, you were shunned. Wow, what a dick. Look at that guy, he's not doing it right. He needs a joystick. Because that's what it was. Everyone grew up in arcades, so that was the way to play, with a joystick and buttons. You were actually made fun of if you played on a pad back then. And so basically, what everyone ended up doing for 2 days before the actual EVO event happened is practice the fuck out of the PlayStation 1 version of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo and tried to learn the differences in the game. Now, it's funny to me because I was there, Cigar Bob was there, there were a bunch of people there who I was very friendly with that I was playing, but it was none of the OGs, right? It wasn't the guys who were synonymous, the Mike Watsons, the Alex Valles, the John Choi's. None of them were the people who were really playing. It was other people who were playing and trying to basically learn the differences between PS1 Super Turbo and Arcade Super Turbo. So when we actually played in the tournament, we know what we were doing, right? Instead of bitching about it, which is what it seemed all the OGs were doing, we'll just play the game and learn the differences so we know for the tournament. So for 2 days, I was intense amounts of practice and training, basically, for PlayStation 1 Super Turbo, and during that period of time, I learned some major differences about the game, including the fact that some characters were different sizes. They weren't as tall or as short as they were supposed to be, and they had different hitboxes. I found out certain characters did different stun amounts than they did in Arcade Super Turbo. I found out that one of my characters, Vega, was incredibly easy to do these complex combos with, which actually was harder to do in the arcade version of the game. So for me, I was like, wow, I might have gotten off a little easy here because my character's actually better. Now, anyone who practiced knew that. The problem was people were, oh, it's Super Turbo, I'll just show up and I'll just play, right? Because they think, oh, I've been playing this since the 90s, I don't need to practice or anything for all these newcomers that are here, fuck them. So, what ended up happening was, finally, after 2 days of practice, this tournament starts. And the way that it worked is that it was like a gauntlet. You started in a pool. You had to win a certain amount of wins in your pool to move on and advance to the bracket. Once you advanced to the bracket, you had to win a certain amount of wins to get to the finals, the top 8 that took place on Sunday. So pools were Friday, the bracket was Saturday, finals were Sunday. So I come in on Friday, you know, ready to go. And I was trying to be very, very laid back, very relaxed, and very calm, not cocky at all or anything like that during this tournament, because I knew I was in foreign territory. I was in enemy territory. I had no friends there. Everyone was a competitor. And I remember playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and losing and getting all pissed off, saying, fuck, I love this game and I always fucking lose at it. Pisses me off, right? Got all pissy and moany. And then I played Super Turbo. And in my bracket for Super Turbo were 2 great players. One of them's name was Bob Painter, who is a traditional E-Honda player. He's known, you know, throughout the world as an E-Honda player, really well trained one, and he is considered an OG, okay? There was also another person, I really admit, I can't remember who he was. He was known for his Vega, okay? Now, here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize when it comes to fighting games. If you really want to be good at the game, you can't be a one-trick pony. And what I mean by that is a lot of these pro players only get good with one character, and then they end up having mismatches. They end up having situations where they're always at a disadvantage if someone counter picks them or has a character. Your main is basically considered a counter to your character. And a lot of the OGs, unfortunately, are one character player. Bob Painter only plays Honda. He could try playing other characters, but when it comes to tournaments, only plays Honda. The other guy only plays Vega. right? When you really think about it, John Choi, he usually only plays Ryu. Every once in a while, he'll pick old Sagat, but he usually picks Ryu. Same thing with Valle. He usually picks Ryu. He'll have one or two others, but almost 99% of the time, he's going to play with Ryu. So these guys are character specialists. They're not jack of all trades. Me, let me give you an idea of the cast of characters that I use in Super Turbo. DJ, so projectile zoning character with some offense mixed in there. Balrog, a rushdown style character. Vega, who can be played both as rushdown and a keep away style character. So those are my three mains when it comes to tournaments. Very, very different gameplay depending on what character I pick. So what I found is when I was going into this tournament, I had an advantage because I had a variety of stuff I could alternate through. So I remember playing Bob Painter and I said, he only picks Honda. This is a shoo-in. DJ, guess what? I ran through Bob Painter. Like, I'm not saying I beat him. I mean, like, I destroyed him. Because it's a complete counter match if you know how to play the match correctly. And I do. And I destroyed him. I think he was like, what the fuck just happened? Like, this kid who everyone considers an upstart, you know, a kid who's not an OG, just whooped an OG's ass. And there was like 2 or 3 other people in my bracket who I didn't know, and I beat them pretty convincingly. And then finally I got to the Vega player. And I said, well, you know, I'm not going to pick Vega. So I don't remember if it was Balrog or DJ, but I knew the match, and I beat this guy. So now I made it into the main bracket, and everyone was giving me a pat on the back that day. Congratulations. And it was kind of funny because if you got out of your pool, you were called a qualifier because you qualified for day 2. And it was funny because the people who I was hanging out with, remember I said I was hanging out with kind of the Maryland, Baltimore people? It was like, Isaac Grant qualified for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Great. You know, I qualified for Super Turbo. Great. Someone else qualified for CVS 2. Great. And this one poor guy who was with us didn't qualify for anything, so we pranked him. That morning when we woke up, we said, well, we're all going to qualifiers breakfast this morning. And he goes, what's that? It says, it's a breakfast that you go to if you qualified for today. You can't go if you didn't, so we'll see you later. And we left the room. Oh my God, it was so funny. We left the room, and we were like halfway down the hall, and then we turned around and came back, and the guy was like sitting on the bed like this, by himself, like sad as hell. We're like, there's no qualifiers breakfast, you idiot. Get down here with us. It was so funny. We pranked the shit out of him. That was really funny. So, day 2 was quite the ordeal, and here's why I say that. First of all, I have to bring this up. Alex Valle did not enter this tournament. Basically, he claimed he was busy and he couldn't show up. Bullshit. He was like, oh, I'm protesting Evo because they're not holding Arcade Super Turbo. I don't want to enter or whatever, right? Yet he was still there, but he didn't enter. He did not enter the tournament. So, just to give you an idea of the gauntlet of killers, and I'm going to name some names now, people who I played and beat that day in Super Turbo for the PS1, that you might be like, what the fuck? Jason Wilson, Mike Watson. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure I played John Choi and I beat him too. I apologize because this is a long time ago, almost 10 years ago. I'm almost positive I played Choi and he played Old Sagat and I beat him too. Because he could not do a Tiger Uppercut. Because I'm going to explain to you how funny this situation was. And one other person. I beat like 4 killers. Like OG, highly respected, known back in the day for being tournament winners. I ran through everyone. And at the end of that day, people were coming up to me like, what the fuck, dude? Like, you're on fire. You're like the hottest thing right now. You're the hot commodity. We got to hang out with you. Maybe some of that luck will rub off on us. I was like, all right. Here's the thing, okay? Those guys didn't fucking practice. What those guys did, they sat and they bitched and moaned about, oh, it's not Arcade Super Turbo. I don't want to play PS1 Super Turbo. Wah, wah, wah. Instead of sitting down, which is what I did, sat down with the game for 2 days, played the fuck out of it, and I learned all the differences of the game. And once I knew all the differences of the game, I knew what was going to work in the tournament and what wasn't. These guys, to give you some perspective, because this is pretty funny, right? They needed to play on joystick, okay? But some of them were used to stand up. So, just to give you some perspective, this is, I'm saying, let's say this is the cabinet. So your hands would be like this and your buttons would be like this.
And when you push the buttons, nothing happens. If you have a loose joystick that you're playing with like today on your lap, and you try to slam the buttons, the thing goes all over the place and you lose your bearings. These guys were used to being able to play in arcades where they could really yank on the fucking thing and do it, and it wouldn't move. So their play style actually didn't convert to console gameplay. It just didn't work. And so it was funny because I remember John Choi had this gigantic monstrosity of it was basically a giant wooden box that looked like, 6 buttons and a joystick that was mounted on these like 2x4s that went down into this fucking base of this thing, like a giant piece of plywood that it was drilled into. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And he's standing there trying to play, and as he's trying to play with it, the thing is wobbling all around like it's like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It was going like this all over. So he's trying to play people. Oh, I'm gonna do Tiger Uppercut when they jump. He wouldn't get it, and then you get destroyed. A big combo. The thing was hilarious. Like, it was laughable because no one wanted to laugh at him because he's an OG. But the thing was going like this. I'm like, how could he fucking play on that? Like, what is he thinking? So it was quite interesting. So, the bottom line is, by the end of the day, I literally beat like 5 more OG players. The only person I had lost to in the tournament is someone I've never effing beaten Super Turbo. His name's Bucktooth. I don't even know if he fucking plays anymore. I really don't. But I could never beat that motherfucker. He was from Texas. He's an Asian guy, and he usually was known for games such as Third Strike and CVS 2. But he played Super Turbo over the years. He was pretty good. I could never fucking beat this guy. His Chun-Li, I don't know, it always got my goat for whatever reason. So it was funny because I lost to him and got sent to the losers bracket. But then as I went through the losers bracket, I literally cleaned out the fucking bracket, beating everyone. So now it's huge controversy because guess what? Finals day. Guess how many OGs were in the finals? 0. They didn't make it. They all got eliminated. They all fucked up in the early stages of the tournament and lost. They didn't make it to the finals. So there was such, oh, how could this be a Super Turbo tournament if the original gamers didn't make it to the finals? Maybe they should have fucking practiced the game. Okay? And so I go to the finals, and my first match is against NKI, who is he's an American, but he lived in Japan for a while, so he's very into Japanese culture, and he plays Chun-Li exclusively. And I've played this guy in tournament before, and he beat me almost every time, right? So we're in tournament, and you can actually watch this. This was recorded. It was on the EVO 2005 DVD. The match I had with him, I played Vega against his Chun-Li, and I ended up beating him. So now I was in the position, boom, if I win like 1 to 2 more matches, I could win the whole event. And then my final match in the tournament was against Tokido, who picked a mirror. We did a mirror match of Vega. And he knew a few things about Vega that I didn't about the mirror match. And just because he knew those few things, he got the jump on me. And I remember distinctly making 1 to 2 major blunders that people were like, why did he do that? I don't know. I was on the stage. I was playing in front of 1,000 or 2 people. And I was, I fucked up, I admit. He beat me. And so what ended up happening, I got 4th place. The top 3 places were all Japanese players. So I ended up basically being the highest ranking American for Super Turbo that year, which was so much, dark side Phil, he placed that high in a tournament. How could this is bullshit. This just proves that console versions will never be accepted. Of course, today, for every game except Super Turbo, we all play console versions because this was where it was going. But those OGs just didn't want to let go, okay? Now, after the tournament, basically Valle shows up. Oh, that's a joke tournament. Let's have the real tournament now. And we all went to a hotel room. We moved that giant cigar bob cabinet into the hotel room, and we actually hooked up arcade Super Turbo, and we had like the tournament after the tournament after the tournament. Now keep in mind, it's like the middle of the night. It's like 2, 3 a.m. and they wanted me to be in it. I said, fine, I'll be in it, but I was tired, and I lost. And they're like, oh, see? So Phil, got that high in the tournament, but now he lost quick in this one. Obviously, that means that he sucks and it means nothing. No, it means that I was in the fucking tournament room playing games all day and winning, right? While you weren't even fucking here. You show up after the event, and now you want to play me competitively when I'm all drained from playing all weekend. It's bullshit. They're, oh, I beat him after. Doesn't like that matters. No. EVO results will forever show I was the best Super Turbo player that year period. It doesn't matter if you put 4,000 asterisks next to it, if you say that you had my toe hurt that day, or I had the sniffles and I couldn't play, my joystick wouldn't stop spinning like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I won. And no one can take that shit away from me, okay? Now, the final thing that I'm going to say, and this is going to piss fucking people off. I know it is. Because I lied to everyone and I said, oh yeah, dude, I've been playing Super Turbo like crazy. I've been going nuts playing it, practicing for EVO, and I really put in... The truth of the matter is this, I shit you not. I went to EVO to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I didn't go there to play Super Turbo. In fact, I didn't have a local arcade that had Super Turbo. In fact, I didn't own Super Turbo. I had no means to practice Super Turbo. The only time that I ever played Super Turbo was when I went to a tournament to play something else, and they happened to have a Super Turbo cabinet there. Never did I ever actively practice the hell out of Super Turbo up until 2005, and the bottom line is, the first time I ever played the PS1 version of the game was at EVO. I never touched it besides then. So, literally, because I wasn't being a whiny bitch about it being the PS1 version of the game, in 2 days, I learned enough of the PS1 version to basically be the best player at it at EVO, which if these OGs had just bothered to do that, instead of whining and bitching and stamping their feet and complaining about the controls, they might have done better, right? But instead, they wanted to be the whiners and the complainers because they can't get their way, and they left the door wide open for me to step in and take the whole thing, which is what I did. So, how do you like that? 2 days of practice, and I beat every OG in the building just because I was the one who was willing to put in the time and effort and to dedicate myself to learn the version of the game instead of the people who just wanted to whine and complain about it. And that's literally as soon as I got home. Oh, that victory means nothing. It's an empty victory because it's PS1 version. I'm like, I didn't pick the version of the game. EVO did. I practiced the version that was at EVO and I won. Maybe you should have done that too. And since then, oh, that was it. Phil's a dick. Well, how dare he speak to people like that? Whatever. You know what? The bottom line is, no one can ever take that placing away from me, right? And in future years, I ended up winning EVO qualifiers and stuff in other versions of Super Turbo, so you can't just say I was only the best at that one version. In subsequent versions that they played at EVO, I also did very well in. But that was the one year where everything kind of came together. It was nuts. And it was funny because when I got back from this trip, I actually ended up getting the job at Best Buy. It ended up paying a decent amount of money. And I was able to at least afford the bills, stay in the apartment, the 3-bedroom apartment that I was in at the time, and basically support myself for years to come. I could never pay down the credit cards until I did this YouTube thing. And then this YouTube thing tremendously has helped me to pay off my credit card debt. And now, now I'm going back into debt because I'm moving. Great. All right. So, excuse me. So, there you have it. Oh my god, look at it. Already we got an idiot. Fort isn't taking the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. Shut up. You know what? I didn't say I won EVO. I said I was the highest placing American. Enjoy your lifetime ban, idiot. Oh.
End the story. He goes years with that whole bullshit about 4th place, right? 4th place, 4th place, 4th place. And then he gets mocked at, I want to tell you, SoCal Regionals. There was a panel, and it had John Choi. Don't hold me to this because I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure they had John Choi, Alex Valle, and Mike Watson up there. And someone commented on the whole situation with DSP and how far he, and where he's at now and how well he's doing this, that, and the third, as they're reminiscing about this tournament. And as you guys know, Mike Watson was like, oh, that piece of shit. Oh, he ran around talking about he was 4th place in the Neo Geo version of Street Fighter, yada, yada, yada. Someone says he has like 80,000 or 90,000 subs on YouTube. Mike Watson's like, oh, there you go. And, 4th place at, Neo Geo conversion of a game and whatnot. And he's got a bunch of idiots that follow him on YouTube. Good for him. I'm paraphrasing. So DSP goes years building himself off of that. Then when people start mocking him because it was only 4th place and who the fuck is building themselves up off of bronze, off of basically a glorified participation trophy. Then he has to go on and say, oh, well, I also ranked highly, or I won a bunch of regionals, in later years, right? I went to a bunch of regional events and I won all those too. Well, then a couple years later, that turns out to be a lie because he did place high or high enough to get seeding, but he didn't win all those tournaments. So then that nonsense happened. But for over a decade, DSP sat there and praised himself for his 4th place finish at EVO 2005. Matter of fact, and I still believe this, if DSP had a crown, right? The crown jewel of that is that 4th place finish. He tried to lord that over the FGC. No one cared. He tried to lord that over people on YouTube who didn't know no better. That worked for a while until people smarted up or people actually went to look, right? He still tries to he doesn't use it so much now for his glorification because he knows it's a joke, it's a mockery. But I think deep down, similar to that Tekken trophy that he has, that he won in that mall tournament and whatnot when he wasn't chasing around 14-year-old girls, by the way.
P all the way.
Yeah. But
I got another
26.
question because
Yes,
now
please.
it just opens up so many things. What the fuck was he trying to accomplish with this post? I need to know now.
His life is on these threads, so he would do easily 100 threads a day on these SRK
100?
forums. Oh, not even,
dude.
not even.
Yeah.
It's a blink of an eye. And he's all these wrestling promos. It's all about wrestling promos. He's talking about, oh, we're gonna have our fabled match in front of the FYE at this mall on this weekend. Hope you're all to see it. And the guy he's playing is literally 12 years old.
Was
I am not making up, I did not make up a
Say it.
single word of that story, by the way, for comedic effect. His opponent was 12 years old, and it was the fabled match that took place outside of a FYE at a mall.
How old was Phil again? Is he 26?
He was at this point, I believe,
think that was
19 or 20.
21, wasn't it?
21, yeah, around there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And 12-year-old fabled match, and he gives a tournament report that's longer than the write-up for the Super Bowl.
Oh,
Literal.
and then there's like a paragraph buried just near the bottom of this epic, like biblical book length, like description of Phil's fights through a tournament, and then he's like, "Oh, and also these other players played, but I don't remember much of their fight because I wasn't."
My jaw's honestly dropped.
Anyone else?
Like I can't even process this shit.
It's fucking
I've always
amazing.
felt Phil was crazy, but
Yes.
this kind of solidifies it.
Dude, yes, that's what the Dead Sea Scrolls is doing.
It's blown my mind at how much of like current Phil is in this. Oh, like young Phil at like 18 to 20 is just as much Phil as Phil of now, and it's terrifying because normally there's more variance. Normally, you know, you change and you grow as a person as you get older. It's fucking all there.
And remember,
it's insane.
He said, after we're done, 21-year-old DSP at this point says, after we get bored of creeping on 14-year-old girls.
Yep.
I don't think here. I want to be clear. I want to be
Why
clear.
is he creeping on the 14-year-old girls though? Like that just escalated so quickly.
Yes, I think he didn't actually do that, but he's trying to
Okay,
be
he's
cool.
being funny. Okay.
I'm trying. No, not funny, but like I'm a cool guy, right? I'm cool too, guys.
Hang
Yeah,
out.
let's just do that.
Yeah.
And he said like
Chill.
many times he says like, yeah, I smoke too much dope. When like, do you think Phil's smoking dope? Like, no, just no.
Sorry,
for the
updates
purpose of,
to the site are slow.
Of truthfulness, he actually said chasing 14-year-old chicks, not creeping on them.
Sorry,
he didn't
chasing
outright
them.
said, but it is fucking creepy if you're gonna be like an 18, 20-year-old guy chasing 14-year-olds in a mall. Yeah.
Just to put another layer of context to it, he's trying to convince people to come to Connecticut, and these are activities we can do while we're waiting around between tournaments. You know, we've got this shop, we've got this place, we could go here, or we can hang out in the mall.
So he was a mall
chase
rat.
14-year-old girls.
Well, that's where the arcade was. So yes, and he also worked there for a while. Yeah, so he loved the mall. He was a mall rat. I mean, that's where the mall is, where the fabled
what a
matches
boring
take place.
Life.
Yeah,
dude.
You found the first bag as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we found.
I'm sure like how he holds that shit in high praise, he holds his 4th place finish. Now, what's the reality of it all, ladies and gentlemen? What does DSP's 2005 4th place finish at EVO really mean? It doesn't mean a damn thing. It means that he was a shitty player then and he's a shitty player now. If mediocre, if you want to be generous. You went up against 3 players who had no experience with it at all and beat you off of straight fundamentals. You thought you were going to use cheap tactics that port of the game had made available, and you were going to use that to coast yourself to an EVO win. And I get it, Phil. I get it. I mean, I'm not as weak of a person as you, but mentally, physically, or otherwise. But I get it. as long as you have that first place finish at Evo that year, no one will ever be able to take that away from you. You would be considered Evo royalty. I get it, Phil. I roger that. I roger that. You would be Evo royalty. No one can ever take that away from you. You'll always be locked in for that. I get it. The reality is, you weren't good enough. You never were good enough. You're never going to be good enough. So you talking all this hot shit about you could go onto the tournament scene if you wanted to, and just if you could just lock LTG into this grudge match, you'll play whatever games he wants, and you'll be able to beat him down. It doesn't matter. I may try to clip that in here too. You'll be able to beat him down no matter what. You're just superior to him. You're delusional. You're mentally ill. You're disabled. You got a problem. You need to sit down. You need to sit your ass down. You have no fucking clue what you're talking about. You were never good, Phil. You were mediocre at a dying game, and that's it. And that's it. And you know that. And you want to know why I know you know that? Is because when you got that win at East Coast Championships over fucking Justin, you don't boast about that shit. Someone asks you directly, hey, have you ever played Justin and beat him? You'll say yes. But you don't boast that shit like you do that fourth place finish. You want to know why? Because, at least from what I've found as my time has gone on, Justin played in a lot of games that over that weekend and whatnot. Super Turbo was not that dude's top priority. And he didn't care when he lost to you. And that's what scares you about the low tier God situation. You're scared that LTG is going to treat you just like Justin treated you after that loss. That LTG is not going to care. He's just going to walk off, and everybody's going to be like, "No problem, Justin. No big deal." And because Justin had basically cleaned house and everything else he played, as well as all the money matches and shit, he's not going to care about one tournament. You know what I'm saying? Or one grand finals or whatever in Super Turbo. Who cares? No one cared, Phil. Only you cared. That's why you don't bring up that ECC thing so much anymore. East Coast Championships, just for verification. That's why you don't bring that shit up, because no one really cares. That's what you're scared about with LTG. And now that there's someone else willing to throw up the money on that LTG shit, now you want a piece too. Now you want a little bit. Just a little bit. Now that you want some of that. Instead of LTG just getting paid outright. And that's what bothers you about that LTG thing. So anyway, just a bit of content.
2 years ago, I challenged him. And then last year, again, I brought it up. And now this year, again, I brought it up. And he just keeps pussying out. He will never accept it because he was a cowardly pussy who knows he cannot beat me in Street Fighter, period. There's no other reason. There's no other excuse. There's no reason for him to have, oh, you need to raise 5K. No, 30K. You need to bench. You need to lift. You need to do that. It's all excuses. That's all it is. A way for him to get out. There's no justification for it, okay? Now, you're saying, well, Keto Casino said that they'll put up the $5,000 to see this match happen. That doesn't help. The point is, and he already said this, LTG already said this publicly. He said, give me 5K to do it because it's not a match, it's a collab. Because he doesn't want to actually play me for real. He wants to take a bag of money and run away with it and not care about the match. So if you just hand this man $5,000 to play me, I will decimate him. And then he'll walk away and not care and say he threw it, but I made the money, so I'm the winner. That's what he wants to do. He literally wants to make 5K for nothing. He does not deserve 5K for nothing, and that just undermines the point of the match. I want to beat him and prove that I'm better than him in Street Fighter to all the morons out there who think that I suck. I don't. I'm about maybe 10 times better than LTG in competitive fighting games. There are ones that he'll be better than me at, like Street Fighter 5 I never played. Street Fighter 4 I barely play. But if I were to practice in Street Fighter 6, I would beat him. And if I were all classic fighting games, I will defeat him. He can't beat me in any classics at all. Okay? The only ones he can beat me at are the ones he actively played a ton and I didn't. But anything that's equal ground, I will beat him. He sucks. Okay? Now I want to prove that for all the shit that people have talked over the years. If I beat LTG, it's something to talk about. Maybe it'll put some more attention on my fighting game content for a little bit. Certainly, it will give me some bragging rights. It'll give a lot of stuff going on, right? There you go. And it builds hype, and it gets excitement, and people will like the content. Like I said, I believe if we did this Evo weekend during Evo broadcasting, our stream of us playing would actually be a big event that would get tons of views. It would benefit us both. We'd both make big views, big money. It would be a good event for all of us involved, okay? It's a win-win, except he can't get over his ego that when I beat him, he can't take the loss. Do you understand? Just like when he lost to Jay Snyder, he never recovered. People, since then, he's been a joke because he is a joke. He sucks. He always has, you know? So he knows that he'll be another like joke level 2. And people are like, well, he won't gain anything if he wins. What do you mean? He'll gain the money. The point I'm making is if there's money put up and we have this challenge, all right, he can win the money. So if there's going to be a situation here where I play LTG, it has to be this simple. Him versus me. And, you know, the winner wins a prize pot. That way, he has motivation to try to beat me. Do you understand? The problem is if you just do it and say, oh, just hand him the money, he won't try. He won't try to learn. He won't try to play or beat me. He'll just throw the match, take the money, and run away. And who fucking cares about that? That'll literally be the most boring stream ever made. No one cares about seeing that. Everyone would feel cheated. The viewers would feel cheated. I would feel cheated. Kino Casino would feel cheated because it wasn't a real match. They just stole their money. We want a real match. That's what it has to be. It has to be he wins and beats me, and he earns the money, right? Then we'll have a real entertaining event where there's stakes involved. He has to actually learn and adapt and play. Then you'd have it, okay? But
So back to what, let's get back on target here. DSP, no one cares. Outside of idiots like me, no one gives a fuck about your 20th anniversary in fucking Evo 2005. I don't think you care. I'll be surprised if you even bring it up. I'll be surprised if you'll even bring it up. Because to be honest, you know, as well as I know, that was your last shot. Everything you did in 2006 and 2007, that weird ass gatekeeping bullshit you try to pull, putting yourself into insolvency and all that nonsense just for a fucking fighting game tournament, for fighting game tournaments, whatever, bruh. You wasted your time. You made yourself look like an idiot. All of those placings didn't mean shit. They got passed off to other people, so on and so forth. 2005 was the only shot that you ever had. And ironically enough, it's the highest placing that you've ever got, and you never were able to replicate it or exceed it. You only got worse as the years went on. That shows that you're a fraud. That shows you're a fake. And it eats you up because you know that people in the FGC who care, they know it too. And that's where you'll always be remembered, if you're even remembered. And that's why you're so desperate to do these little antics or have these little collaborations to try to get your name out there with the FGC. You're so desperate to have these people remember you when, in actuality, they had a good reason to forget you. That's the reality of it all. At the end of the day, the reason why you don't mention that fourth place finish so much anymore, because it's just another thing to mock you for, and you hate it. But you also realize that you don't have anything else. You really don't. So like I said, I'm gonna insert a bunch of clips here and whatnot. Hopefully it's not like the last video that I did, because Diggs is very mad at me for that, and he has a right to. He has a right to. I edited the first part right, but the second part I completely fucked that up. Anywho, I'm gonna see if I can get these clips here, or really, I'll just find the clips and Diggs will put them in. This way, it'll actually work out, and you guys will see what I mean. I will try to work on an Evo video. I'm not sure if it'll be out by the 14th. I don't even know when this one's gonna go out. Hopefully, it's out the day before or the day of. But I will work on that, and I'll see what I can try to throw together. Because his Evo story is kind of funny. It's kind of funny, and then stuff that he said throughout the years. Unfortunately, though, some of that stuff has become, he ain't lost. Some of that stuff is kind of lost, or at least it's been deleted from DSP's channel, but we'll see what we can pull. The DSP detractor community has always been resourceful. DSP knows that more than anything, and so on and so forth. So we'll see what we can try to pull out of that. But yeah, so to Phil, happy anniversary, happy 20th anniversary, I should say, to your 4th place finish at Evo. The question is, Phil, is your wife going to live long enough for you guys to have a 20-year anniversary, wedding anniversary? I know that sounds really fucked up, but I'm asking because you're clearly not helping to mitigate her situation. If anything, you're actively contributing to it. So I was just wondering, do you have any value there with that? You know, I know your 20 years is coming up on YouTube. I mean, you've been around since 2018 or 2008. So, you know, you're getting there. You're almost at your 20 years of that. Will you have a big celebration about that? Are you going to do a retrospective talking about that bullshit? I wonder, Phil. I wonder how you really feel about it. You want the FGC to fucking remember you, right? You should do. This is what you should do. You should either have a segment on the Bottom Bitch podcast. I'm sorry, the daily therapy session. I'm sorry, whatever the fuck you call that damn thing. You should go on your little podcast. You know what I'm saying? You should do a segment on that. Or matter of fact, you should do a standalone video and you should send it to Ernesto Buttoncheck so he can spotlight your 20 years of contributions to the FGC. No, your 20 years to your contribution to Evo and whatnot, and how you've been beating your own drum to the greatness that no one will acknowledge you for now, except for assholes like me. You should do that. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should go ahead and send Ernesto that tweet. See what he says. You want to know what he'll do? I'll tell you what he'll do. He's going to ignore it. He's going to ignore the fuck out of it. That's not news. No one gives a fuck. So there you go, Phil. Just know that your 20-year anniversary of Evo 2005 it's a fart in the wind. Imagine that. Mr. I make meaningful content. I do things to uplift my community, except for the fact that you defend pedophiles, but we'll save that for another time. You know, you make meaningful stuff. You've done meaningful things. You've contributed to what was the grassroots movement that was the FGC before it got all corporatized and became sellouts and all that other bullshit you like to talk about. Of course, you weren't man enough to call Justin a sellout when you played him in CVS 2 that one time, even though he had just had his White Claw non-alcoholic deal that happened in Evo, him and a bunch of other guys too. But you didn't call Justin a sellout there. Semantics. I'm pretty sure it just slipped your mind. You're pretty gin-brained yourself. So I hear during the pickle process or the pickling process, you tend to not, you know, the memory kind of just goes out the window. So that's the thing. But no one cares, Phil. No one cares except for dumbasses like me. No one gives a shit. But I thought it was funny nonetheless. Big ups to fucking the farms who were talking about it and whatnot. Big ups to the Discord that also had a good laugh about it. And that's why we're here. Oh, well, that and your 1 year anniversary of your beautiful relationship with Kino Casino and your collaboration with Rich. Absolutely pathetic that you would celebrate that. But whatever. We'll see if Kino Casino has anything to say about it.
Kino Casino's watching right now? All right. Well, cheers to Andy and Ashton. 1 year anniversary of us destroying Review Tech USA. Even if we don't hate each other's, I mean, if we hate each other's guts now or whatever, that's a moot point for this. This is the celebration of the fact that we collabed once on an amazing piece of content that will be there forever. And people absolutely loved it and love it to this day. And to be quite honest, nothing's really changed in regard to Review Tech. It's not like this guy has changed his position in life or improved. That's for sure. He certainly has fucking tanked, right? So, cheers for the one collab that was really good. Sadly, I don't think anything else that we did was nearly as good, but that was definitely one of the best things we ever did. That was the best thing we ever did, to be honest. Okay. But, all that's over with now. It's time to drive. Let's do it, folks, right?
We'll see what's popping with that, but yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for me. That's it for me. I thought that shit was hilarious. Oh, it's so sad. It's so sad. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, in closing, imagine what you feel is your greatest accomplishment. You know what I'm saying? Your greatest act of adversity, right? That you were able to rise above all the people that were working against you and all the cards weren't in your favor, and the best that you got was 4th place. A participation trophy, basically. And you based your entire most of your known history off of that. And then over the years, you ain't sat there and got bopped and bodied by all these different people. And it made things worse. When Evil AJ cleaned his ass up, that should tell you something. When homeboy with the was it that Ken player who beat him in that 1 round thing? That shit was just kind of funny. The Bison player was the Wonder Waffles when he cleaned your ass up. When you ran into Maximilian in Marvel vs. Capcom 1 when he cleaned your ass up online. When you ran into Justin and he cleaned your ass up online. Matter of fact, real quick, it's funny how DSP wants to down talk or downplay the fact that him and LTG, I'm gonna have to clip this in there too. DSP down talks or downplays his match with LTG, saying that, oh, it was random online, it was just one match, it doesn't mean anything, it has no value, this, that, and the third. But when you ran into Maximilian in Marvel vs. Capcom 1, or was it X-Men vs. Street Fighter? Or was it Marvel vs. Capcom 2? I may have to look at that now. But when you met him up there online and he cleaned your ass up, you took it. Like a good bitch. Like a good bitch. Easy way or the hard way. The choice is yours. You ain't sat there taking all that shit. And then years later, you wanted to say, oh, Max made his name off of me, off of that match. He owes me. Even though you go to Max's channel and the match is there. Your name isn't. You were just part of a collage. Womp womp. Anyway, you ran into Justin and he sat there and cleaned your ass up 10-0. You've probably run into Justin even before that. You didn't sit there and say, oh, well, you know, Justin's just a better man, this, that, and third. I'm sure Justin and you have had some one-offs. You didn't say anything about that. What about all the other people that have cleaned your ass up in single sets? You don't have nothing to say about that, but you can say that about LTG?
I don't know how you don't get that. And for people who are saying, well, he beat you in Street Fighter 4, you're right, I think. I don't even know because I don't think I've seen the match, but people say, you know, you guys randomly played one match of Street Fighter 4 over a decade ago and he beat you. Yes, I'm sure there's probably about 5,000 people who I've randomly played one match against online and they beat me. I'm sure. Particularly Street Fighter 4, I played a literal ridiculous amount of content of that game because everyone liked it and I made tons of money playing it. But I was never good at Street Fighter 4. I was never a tournament player. I never tried to be a tournament player. I was making casual sets called Madness series online where I was trying to win with shitty characters like Hakan and Dan. And yes, there were serious sets too where I was trying to win, but I was never good at that game. Never did I even say I was. Right? So does that prove anything? A random one-off match against the guy over a decade ago in a game I wasn't good at and I wasn't competitive at? No. No, stupid. It doesn't mean anything. So here's what you do.
Interesting. Anywho, we'll see if we can get some of this stuff in there. Help give some context. If not, I tried and whatnot. We're on a time crunch here. But that's the thing. So what do you guys think? How do you guys feel? You know what I'm saying? If this comes out either on the day before or the day of, what do you think about DSP's 20th anniversary celebrating his 40th straight face? DSP's 20th anniversary of making it to 4th place at EVO 2005. What do you think and how do you guys feel? Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the, I'll name this segment later, GTG Spits That Grease, so on and so forth. And I very much appreciate your time. I really do. And take care of yourselves. Shit. Take care of yourselves, my people. Take care of yourselves. Later.